In the heart of Times Square, the air buzzed with laughter and clinking glasses. Leo moved through the throng of diners, balancing trays piled high with gourmet dishes. The restaurant's luxurious ambiance felt like a world apart from his own life. Each night, he served demanding customers, their smiles often hiding impatience. But tonight, something felt different. The tension in his chest grew heavier as he approached a table filled with laughter, Theo's table. Theo, the arrogant heir to one of New York's wealthiest families, lounged back in his chair, a smirk plastered across his face. His friends surrounded him, their laughter ringing loud and clear over the clatter of dishes. It was a scene Leo had witnessed many times before, but this time he sensed trouble brewing. He set down a plate of food in front of Theo, and the moment hung in the air like a storm cloud ready to burst. "Hey, Leo, why don't you get me a drink while you're at it?" Theo called out, his tone dripping with mockery. Leo's heart raced. He could feel the eyes of the table on him, the weight of their laughter pressing down. Swallowing his pride, he nodded. "Sure, Theo. I'll be right back." But as Leo turned to leave, Theo's laughter grew louder. "And don't forget to spit in it." His friends erupted in laughter, and Leo felt his face burn with shame. He could not believe it, spitting in his food. The humiliation washed over him like a wave crashing against the shore. Leo took a deep breath, trying to steady his trembling hands. He felt the urge to retaliate, to throw Theo's arrogance back in his face. But the thought of losing his job, of disappointing his family, held him back. Instead, he retreated to the kitchen, where the heat from the stoves mingled with the heat of his anger. "Are you okay, Leo?" Maria, one of the older waitresses, asked, noticing his distress. "Just another night," he replied, forcing a smile that didn't reach his eyes. But inside, his heart raced with confusion and hurt. Why did Theo have to be like this? Why did he get pleasure from belittling others? In the stillness of the kitchen, Leo's mind spun. He felt small, trapped in the shadow of Theo's wealth and privilege. Yet, as the moments passed, something shifted within him. He realized that this moment, as painful as it was, could be a turning point. He could choose to rise above the humiliation, to become stronger for his family, who depended on him. "Leo!" a voice called, jolting him from his thoughts. It was his manager, eyes narrowed in concern. "We need you back out there. Theo's table is demanding service." With a nod, Leo steeled himself. He couldn't allow Theo's actions to dictate his worth. He would face the arrogant heir again, not as a victim, but as a man determined to rise above the cruelty. As he walked back into the dining room, the atmosphere buzzed with the chatter of patrons. Leo felt the weight of his heart in his throat. He approached Theo's table once more, this time with a newfound resolve. "Here's your drink, Theo," he said, placing it down with careful precision. "Hope it's to your liking." Theo looked up, his face a mix of surprise and disdain. "What's this? No spit?" The table erupted in laughter again, but Leo stood tall, his heart pounding in his chest. "Just a drink, Theo," he replied, keeping his voice steady. "Nothing more, nothing less." In that moment, Leo understood that he was not just a waiter, he was a person with dignity. No matter how much Theo tried to humiliate him, he would not allow it to break him. As he turned to walk away, he felt a flicker of hope. Perhaps, just perhaps, this was the start of something new, a journey towards strength and resilience that he desperately needed. As the days passed, Leo found himself observing Theo from a distance. The once arrogant heir who had humiliated him in front of his friends now seemed different. Leo noticed how Theo interacted with his group, laughing and joking, but there were moments when the smile faded. Leo became curious about what lay beneath that confident exterior. One evening, as Leo was cleaning a table near the entrance of the restaurant, he spotted Theo outside, leaning against a lamppost. The laughter from within the restaurant faded, replaced by the sounds of the bustling street. Theo looked lost, his head hung low, his usual bravado nowhere to be seen. Leo felt a strange pull in his chest. Is he really that tough? Leo whispered to himself, remembering the humiliation he had endured. He caught himself staring, trying to reconcile the view of Theo as a bully with this new image of vulnerability. Suddenly, a group of Theo's friends burst out of the restaurant, their voices echoing in the air. They called out to him, but Theo merely waved them off. "I'll be fine," he muttered, though his tone lacked conviction. Leo's heart softened as he watched Theo standing there alone, the laughter of his friends growing distant. That night, as Leo lay in bed, he recalled snippets of Theo's life he had overheard during shifts. The stories of parties, expensive gifts, and high expectations from his family painted a vivid picture of a life filled with pressure. Leo remembered how Theo had once mentioned, "I can't mess up. My father will never let me live it down." Leo's own struggles came to mind. He thought of his family and the sacrifices they made for him to work at the restaurant. "I can't mess up either," he murmured, feeling the weight of responsibility press down on him. But unlike Theo, he had to fight for every inch of progress. Days turned into a week, and Leo continued to observe Theo from afar. Each time he saw Theo, he noticed a glimpse of pain hidden behind his confident facade. One afternoon, as Leo was taking out the trash, he saw Theo sitting alone on the curb, staring at the ground. "Hey," Leo said hesitantly, stepping closer. Theo looked up, surprise flickering in his eyes. "What do you want?" Theo replied, defensive but soft. "I just wanted to see if you're okay," Leo offered, his voice steady despite the tension. "Why do you care?" Theo shot back, his bravado returning momentarily. "Because we're not so different," Leo answered, surprising even himself. "We both have our own battles." Theo scoffed, but Leo could see the crack in his armor. "You think you know me? You see the fancy clothes and the parties? You don't know what it's like." "I see you," Leo replied earnestly. "I see the pressure. I see the fear of not living up to expectations." Theo's expression shifted. For a brief moment, Leo saw a flicker of vulnerability. "What would you know about expectations?" "I know about family," Leo countered, his heart pounding. "I know about trying to make them proud, even when it feels impossible." The silence hung between them, heavy and charged. Theo's gaze dropped, revealing a crack in his confident facade. "It's never enough," he finally admitted, his voice barely above a whisper. Leo felt a rush of empathy. "You're not alone, you know. I've had my share of battles too." Theo looked up, surprise evident in his eyes. "Really? What do you mean?" "I work here to support my family. Every day is a struggle," Leo confessed. "But I try to rise above it." In that moment, something shifted between them. The walls they had built began to crumble, revealing the shared humanity that connected them. Leo felt a sense of hope blossoming within him. As they stood there, two young men from very different worlds, both grappling with their own vulnerabilities, Leo realized that understanding Theo might lead to his own healing. The seeds of empathy were sown, and for the first time, he began to feel that perhaps they could both learn from each other. Leo stood at the entrance of the restaurant, his heart pounding as he prepared to serve Theo's table. The celebratory dinner was in full swing, laughter and clinking glasses echoing around him. He took a deep breath, reminding himself that this was just a job. Yet, the thought of facing Theo again sent a wave of tension through his body. As he approached, Leo noticed Theo leaning back in his chair, a glass of whiskey in hand. His laughter was loud and brash, cutting through the festive atmosphere. Leo felt a knot tighten in his stomach. What would Theo say this time? "Hey, Leo," Theo called out, his voice dripping with mockery. "Did you bring the food, or just your sad little life story?" Leo's face flushed with anger. The laughter from Theo's friends rang like a bell, each chuckle a reminder of the humiliation he had faced before. But this time, something felt different. Leo felt a fire inside him, a need to stand up for himself. "Actually, Theo," Leo said, his voice steady but firm, "I didn't come here to be your punching bag. I have my own story, just like you." Theo's laughter faltered, surprise flickering across his face. The room fell silent as the other guests turned to watch the confrontation unfold. Leo continued, feeling a rush of courage. You think you know everything because of your money and your family's name. But I see you, Theo. I see the pressure you're under to be perfect. You're not just some rich kid, you're a person, just like me. The air was thick with tension. Theo blinked, caught off guard. For a moment, the bravado slipped from his expression, revealing a hint of vulnerability. What do you know about me? He shot back, but his tone lacked its usual bite. I know enough, Leo replied, his voice growing stronger. I know what it's like to struggle, to feel like you're never good enough. I work here to support my family, to make a better life, and I'm tired of being treated like I'm less than you. The room was silent, and Leo felt a mix of fear and relief. He had said what he needed to say, and now the ball was in Theo's court. Theo's eyes narrowed, but Leo could see the shift. The anger was fading, replaced by something else: regret. Do you even know what it's like to be me? Theo finally said, his voice quieter. Do you know what my family expects from me? Leo nodded slowly, sensing the change in the atmosphere. I may not know all the details, but I know the weight of expectations. It's heavy, isn't it? Theo looked away, his bravado crumbling. Yeah, it is, he admitted, almost reluctantly. Sometimes I wish I could just be normal. Leo took a step closer, his heart racing. Then maybe we're not as different as you think. We both have our battles. We both feel lost. Theo shifted in his seat, the laughter from earlier now a distant memory. I never thought about it like that, he murmured. I just thought you were, well, beneath me. Maybe it's time to change that view, Leo said gently. We all have our struggles. It doesn't make one of us better than the other. The silence that followed was heavy, but charged with understanding. Theo looked back at Leo, and for the first time, there was no mockery in his eyes, only contemplation. I'm sorry, Theo said, his voice barely above a whisper. I've acted like a jerk. Leo felt a warmth spread through him, a mix of surprise and hope. It's okay, we all have our moments, but it's what we do next that matters. Theo nodded, his expression shifting as he processed Leo's words. I want to do better. I really do. As Leo turned away to serve the other tables, he felt a strange sense of victory. The night had shifted, not just for him, but for Theo as well. They were both on a path toward understanding, a path that could change everything. The celebration continued around them, but for Leo and Theo, the real celebration was just beginning. The atmosphere in the restaurant was heavy with tension as Leo stood before Theo, his heart pounding in his chest. The laughter from the other tables faded into a dull roar, leaving only the two of them in focus. Leo took a deep breath, trying to calm the storm of emotions swirling inside him. Do you even understand what you're doing? Leo's voice was steady, but it carried the weight of all the pain he had felt. He looked directly into Theo's eyes, searching for any sign of understanding. You think it's funny to belittle people, but you don't see how it hurts. Theo's face twisted with surprise. He had been ready to laugh again, to throw another insult, but Leo's words caught him off guard. The bravado that usually surrounded him began to waver. What do you know about my life? He shot back, though his tone lacked its usual bite. I know that you hide behind your money and your friends, but deep down, you're just like me. We both struggle, we both have our pain, Leo replied, his voice rising slightly. He could feel the anger bubbling beneath the surface, but chose to channel it into something more. You think you're better than everyone else, but you're not. You're scared. The restaurant fell silent, the other diners turning to watch the confrontation unfold. Theo shifted uncomfortably in his chair, his facade cracking. You don't know anything about me, he mumbled, but his voice lacked conviction. Then let me show you, Leo said, his heart racing. I may serve you food, but I have a life too. I work hard for my family. I face challenges every day. The world isn't as easy for me as it is for you." Theo's expression softened for a moment, and Leo seized the opportunity. "You're not alone, Theo. We're all human. Why can't we respect each other? Why can't we be better?" Leo's words hung in the air, and for the first time, he saw a flicker of something in Theo's eyes: vulnerability. It was as if a mask was slipping away, revealing the person beneath. Leo pressed on, feeling a surge of compassion. "You don't have to keep up this act. You can change. We all can." Theo's lips pressed together, and he looked down at the table, avoiding Leo's gaze. "It's not that easy," he admitted, his voice barely above a whisper. "I know it's not," Leo replied, his tone softening. "But it starts with a choice. You can choose to be better, to understand, to connect with people instead of tearing them down." The restaurant buzzed with the murmurs of curious diners, but Leo focused solely on Theo. He had opened a door, and he hoped Theo would step through it. "You have the chance to be someone different, to be someone who lifts others up instead of pushing them down." Theo clenched his fists, the internal battle evident on his face. Leo could see him wrestling with his past actions and the fear of facing his own flaws. "I've messed up a lot," Theo finally admitted, his voice shaky. "I don't know if I can change." "You won't know unless you try," Leo urged, his sincerity shining through. "It's okay to be vulnerable. It's okay to admit you're wrong. That's how we grow." As Leo spoke, he could see a shift in Theo. The layers of arrogance began to peel away, exposing the fear and uncertainty underneath. "I don't want to feel this way anymore," Theo confessed, his voice breaking. "But I don't know how." Leo stepped closer, feeling the weight of the moment. "Start by saying you're sorry to the people you've hurt. You'll be surprised how freeing it can be." For a moment, silence enveloped them. Theo stared at Leo, and the realization of what he needed to do began to dawn on him. The conflict within him was palpable, the desire to change battling against the fear of facing his own mistakes. "I'll try," Theo finally said, his voice steady but filled with uncertainty. "I'll try to do better." Leo nodded, his heart swelling with hope. "That's all any of us can do, just take it one step at a time." As the moment lingered, the two young men stood on the brink of change, one filled with the courage to confront his past, and the other ready to embrace the possibility of a different future. The air was thick with potential, and in that moment, something profound shifted between them. In the days that followed their intense encounter, a quiet change swept over Theo. He began to approach the world around him with a new lens, one that was less clouded by arrogance and more open to understanding. Leo noticed this shift with a mixture of hope and skepticism. He watched as Theo, once a figure of disdain, made attempts to interact with those he had previously disrespected. One afternoon, as Leo wiped down a table near the window, he saw Theo walking down the street. Theo paused and spoke to a group of waiters, offering them compliments and even sharing a laugh. "You guys do a great job," he said, his voice genuine. The waiters exchanged surprised glances, unsure of how to react. Leo felt a flicker of hope. Perhaps Theo was truly trying to change. As the days passed, Theo continued this new approach. He would smile at the staff, help with small tasks, and even brought in coffee for everyone one morning. The atmosphere in the restaurant began to shift, with staff members feeling lighter and more appreciated. Yet, Leo remained cautious. He often wondered how long this change would last and if it was sincere. Then came the day when Theo approached Leo directly. It was during a quiet lull in the restaurant. Leo was restocking supplies in the back when Theo appeared at the door. "Hey Leo," he said, fidgeting slightly. "Do you have a moment?" Leo looked up, surprised. Sure, what's up?" Theo took a deep breath, his eyes reflecting a mix of nervousness and determination. "I wanted to talk to you about the other night. I've been thinking a lot about what you said." Leo raised an eyebrow. "Really? You've been thinking about it?" "Yeah," Theo replied, running a hand through his hair. "I know I've been a jerk. I've always thought I was better than everyone else, but I see now how wrong I was. I want to apologize for how I treated you." Leo's heart raced. The words felt heavy, yet hopeful. "Apology accepted, I guess," he said slowly. He felt a rush of conflicting emotions, relief, skepticism, and a hint of disbelief. "Thank you," Theo said, his voice earnest. "I know it doesn't fix everything, but I want to do better. I want to be better." Leo studied Theo's face, searching for any sign of insincerity. "You really mean that?" "I do," Theo replied, his gaze steady. "I've been reaching out to others too, people I used to look down on. I want to make things right, even if it takes time." Leo nodded, feeling a weight lift off his chest. "It will take time, but it's a good start." "Can we be friends?" Theo asked, his voice almost shy. "I mean, if you're okay with that." Leo hesitated, the question hanging in the air. "Friends?" he repeated. It was a big leap, and he felt uncertain. "I'm not sure. It's hard to forget everything that's happened." "I understand," Theo said quickly, sensing Leo's hesitation. "I don't expect you to forgive me right away. I want you to know, I'm trying." Leo took a moment to process Theo's words. "Trying is a start," he finally said. "But you have to show it. Actions speak louder than words." "Absolutely," Theo agreed, his expression serious. "I'll prove it to you." As Theo turned to leave, Leo called out, "Theo!" Theo paused, looking back with hope in his eyes. "Yeah?" "Just take it slow, okay? Trust takes time to build." Theo nodded, a small smile breaking through. "I can do that. Thanks, Leo." After their conversation, Leo found himself reflecting on the idea of forgiveness. It was not just about Theo, it was about his own peace. As he continued to watch Theo engage with others, Leo felt a shift within himself. Perhaps letting go of resentment could lead to something positive. Days turned into weeks, and Theo's efforts continued. He reached out to Leo more often, sharing casual conversations that felt less strained with each interaction. While Leo remained cautious, he couldn't help but feel a sense of hope blossoming. Maybe, just maybe, this was the beginning of a new chapter for both of them. As the sun dipped below the horizon, painting the sky with hues of orange and pink, Leo stood outside the restaurant, waiting for Theo. The air was filled with excitement, a promise of change hanging between them. Leo felt a mixture of nerves and hope. He wondered if the shift in their relationship could be real. When Theo arrived, he looked different. There was a softness in his eyes, a vulnerability that had not been there before. Leo took a deep breath, ready to face the person who had once caused him so much pain. "Hey Leo," Theo said, his voice quiet but steady. "I wanted to talk." Leo nodded, feeling the weight of the moment. "I'm listening." "I know I've been a jerk," Theo began, rubbing the back of his neck. "I've treated you poorly, and I regret it. I'm sorry for what I did. I never thought about how my actions affected you." Leo looked at him, surprised. This was not the arrogant air he had encountered before. This was someone willing to acknowledge his mistakes. "It's okay," Leo replied cautiously. "It's not easy to change." Theo took a step closer, his expression earnest. "I've been thinking a lot about what you said, about respect and understanding. I realized I've been hiding behind my privilege, trying to be perfect for everyone. But I'm not perfect, Leo. I've made mistakes, and I want to do better." Leo felt a warmth spread through him. This was the moment he had hoped for, a chance for both of them to heal. "We all make mistakes," he said gently, "but it takes courage to own up to them." Theo smiled slightly, his shoulders relaxing. "I want to learn from you. You've shown me how to be strong in the face of adversity. Your resilience is inspiring." Leo was taken aback by the compliment. "I didn't think you noticed," he said, a hint of disbelief in his voice. "Of course I noticed," Theo replied. "You carry yourself with a strength I've always admired. I want to be like that. I want to be better, not just for me, but for everyone around me, including you." As they spoke, Leo felt a bond forming between them, something he had never expected. "You have the power to change, Theo. It's not easy, but you can do it." Theo nodded, determination flickering in his eyes. "I will. I want to be someone who lifts others up, not tears them down." The two young men stood in silence for a moment, the atmosphere shifting from tension to understanding. Leo realized that their struggles, though different, had brought them together. They were both searching for meaning in a world that often felt cold and unforgiving. "Let's start fresh," Leo suggested, breaking the silence. "Maybe we can help each other along the way." "I'd like that," Theo said, a genuine smile spreading across his face. "Friends?" "Friends," Leo replied, feeling a sense of relief wash over him. As they made their way back into the restaurant, a gathering was forming inside. Colleagues and friends were coming together to celebrate the progress they had all made. Leo and Theo joined the crowd, their camaraderie evident as they laughed and shared stories. "Look at us," Theo said, glancing at Leo. "Who would have thought we'd be here together?" "Life has a funny way of surprising us," Leo replied, feeling grateful for the unexpected turn of events. In that moment, surrounded by laughter and warmth, Leo felt a deep sense of connection. He realized that sometimes it takes an unlikely friendship to heal old wounds. The power of empathy and understanding could transform lives in ways they never imagined. As the night continued, the two young men celebrated not just their new friendship, but also the journey that had brought them here. They were no longer defined by their pasts, but by their commitment to grow and support one another. The narrator observed them with a sense of fulfillment, reflecting on the journey both Leo and Theo had taken. It was a reminder that even the most lost individuals could find redemption through human connection and kindness. Their story was just beginning, and the possibilities were endless. Share this story if you believe that understanding and empathy can heal even the deepest wounds. Leave a comment about a moment when an unexpected friendship transformed your life, and subscribe to our channel for more inspiring tales like this one.